After some very light internet searching, there are quite a few books that I think should be on your radar that are coming out in the latter half of this year. I really like watching these videos and I like hunting for books to anticipate, so I hope you like it too. Another note before we get into the video, I recently have been requesting arks, digital arks on Edelweiss, which is a website that is more intended, I think, for publishers and librarians than it is for reviewers and like normal consumers. But I have had much greater luck getting approved for digital review copies through Edelweiss, which is kind of weird compared to NetGalley. I think their interface is way more confusing to use than NetGalley, but I think it's worth a try if you're getting denied NetGalley arcs kind of arbitrarily from publishers and you can't figure out why, even if you have like a good review ratio and everything. So I don't know, a plug for Edelweiss. Okay, first up we have Dogs of Summer by Andrea Abro. It's out by August from Astor House, who I think is a subsidiary of Penguin Random House. This is blurbed as, my brilliant friend meets blue as the warmest color in this lyrical debut novel set in a working class neighborhood of the Canary Islands. A story about two girls coming of age in the early aughts and a friendship that simmers into erotic desire over the course of one hot summer. Writing prose poetry with bachata lyrics and the gritty humor of Canary dialect, Dogs of Summer is a story of exquisite yearning, a brutal picture of girlhood, and a love song written for the vital community it portrays. All of that sounds great to me. I've never read something set in that part of Spain. And it's a piece of translated literature, which I'm always down for. Then we have The Lonely Stories by Natalie Eve Garrett, out by Catapult. This is a collection of essays about the joys and struggles of being alone by 22 literary writers, including Lev Grossman, Jhumpa Lahiri, Lena Dunham, Jesmyn Ward, Yi-Yun Lee, and Anthony Doerr. Kind of what it says on the tin, this is essays about loneliness and what it means to be alone. The cathartic collection of essays illuminates an experience that so few of us openly discuss. Some stories are heartbreaking, others are witty, still others celebrate the clarity of solitude. Thoughtful and affirming, The Lonely Stories reveals the complexities of an emotion we've all felt, reminding us that we're not alone. Might be kind of corny, but I will take the leap on it. Then we have a book called Reward Systems by Jim Calder, which is out in July as well by FSG. I recently read this book. Reward Systems is an exhilarating and beautiful book by an extraordinary gifted writer. Reading these stories, I found myself thinking newly and differently about contemporary life. This is a collection of interwoven short stories that is ultra contemporary, thinks about technology, millennial malaise, and even comments on the lockdown and the recent pandemic. The beginnings of it anyway. We're still in it. Now we have The Book of Goose by Yi-Yun Lee. Oh, also they're in the essay collection I noted earlier, so that's cool. A propulsive, oh, this is out by FSG as well in September. A propulsive, gripping new novel about fate, art, exploitation, and intimacy by the award-winning author of Where Reasons End. Fabienne is dead. Her childhood best friend Agnes receives the news in America, far from the French countryside where the two girls were raised, the place that Fabienne helped Agnes escape 10 years ago. Now Agnes is free to tell her story. Interesting. Is this historical fiction? I'm kind of scared now, actually. As children in a war-ravaged backwater town, they built a private world invisible to everyone but themselves until Fabienne hatched the plan that would change everything, launching Agnes on an epic trajectory through fame, fortune, and terrible loss. A magnificent, beguiling tale winding from the post-war rural provinces in Paris, from an English boarding school to the quiet Pennsylvania home where Agnes can live with her past. Okay, I'm down. Stunning cover too. Reminds me of that Gucci wallpaper. I think they're cranes in the Gucci wallpaper though. Do you know the one I'm talking about? Okay, then we have Bliss Montage, which is a collection of short stories by Eileen, who's the author of Severance, which was like a millennial dystopian novel I really liked when it came out a couple years ago. This is blurbed. Oh, it's out in September as well from FSG. A new creation by the author of Severance, the stories in Bliss Montage crash through our carefully built mirages. What happens when fantasy tears through the screen of the everyday to wake us up? Could that waking be our end? In Bliss Montage, Ling Ma brought us 8 wildly different tales of people making their way through the madness and reality of our collective delusions. Love and loneliness, connection and possession, friendship, motherhood, the idea of home. From a woman who lives in a house with all of her ex-boyfriends, to a toxic friendship built around a drug that makes you invisible. Ooh, that sounds good. To an ancient ritual that might heal you of anything if you bury yourself alive. These and other scenarios reveal the outlandish and the everyday are shockingly, deceptively, heartbreakingly similar. That sounds incredible. Then we have The Goodbye People, which is a reissue of a 1971 novel by Gavin Lambert from McNally Editions. These covers are stunning. Stunning. I love this reissue editions that McNally is doing. And this one sounded really good to me. First published in 1971, The Goodbye People is perhaps the greatest novel ever written about post-Manson, pre-Disney Los Angeles. His elegant, stripped-down prose caught the last gasp of old Hollywood in a way that has yet to be rivaled. That sounds incredible. It kind of reminds me of, oh, what's that book I like by Christopher Isherwood? A Single Man. Kind of same time period of Los Angeles. Also, I feel like Joan Didion could exist in the same timeline, but it's fiction. I'm excited to read that. Be Here to Love Me at the End of the World by Sasha Fletcher. Oh, this is already out. This came out in February of this year by Melville House. I'll blurb it for you anyway. A love story set in a bad dream about America concerning permanent debt, secret police, making dinner, and unpaid invoices. Right up until the end of the world. I think that sounds kind of cheeky and fun and surreal about just going about our day as the world crumbles, right? Not strange at all. Then we have Lipona by Ottessa Moshfegh. I think Jalen is picking this for his book club pick in July, so I think I'm gonna wait to read it until then, so I have some community to read it with, out by Penguin Press. In a village buffeted, is that a word? In a village buffeted by natural disasters, a motherless shepherd boy finds himself part of a power struggle that puts the community's faith to a savage test. In a spellbinding novel that represents Ottessa Moshfegh's most exciting leap yet. Yeah, medieval. I hear it's supposed to be really brutal, and she is a constant innovator, always giving us a new novel like nothing she's done before. So that sounds good. Paul by Daisy Lafarge, out in August by Riverhead. A sharp, timely debut about a young woman's toxic relationship with an older man and her battle to free herself from this suffocating expectation to be good. Little bit acts of service on that blurb, right? Okay, we'll do the longer blurb on this one because that didn't really give us much today. When personal scandal forces her to leave Paris, Frances, we can't name any more people Frances, also in literature. Frances, a young British graduate, travels to southern France one summer to volunteer on a farm. Almost as soon as she arrives, she's pulled into a relationship with the farm's enigmatic owner, Paul, a well-traveled older artist. Alone in a foreign country, drawn into his orbit, and eventually tangled up in his sheets, Frances starts to lose herself in Paul's easy, experienced charm. Yet over the course of 3 intense weeks, as she discovers more about Paul and the people surrounding him, she realizes that she's caught in an emotional battle of wills that threatens to stifle her voice and crush her autonomy. Coming to terms with what's happening to her and wrenching control from an older man with dark secrets of his own are at the heart of this compelling, unsettling novel. I'm into it. We'll give her a chance. Then we have Death by Landscape by Elvia Wilk. I'm really excited to read this because I'm currently reading Oval and I'm really liking it. From the acclaimed author of the novel Oval comes a book of fan nonfiction about living and writing in the age of extinction. I love anything that confronts or even addresses the fact that the world is quite literally collapsing around us. If you can't tell, either in dystopians or essay collections about this, just anything that kind of centers it a little bit more clearly and looks it in the eye at all. So in this constellation of essays, Elvia Wilk asks what kind of narratives will help us rethink our human perspective towards Earth. The book begins as an exploration of the role of fiction today and becomes a deep interrogation of the writing process and the self. Yes. Yes. Out by Soft School in July. Yes. Now we have Arrival by Natalia Deliva, out in June by Indigo Press. This is a work of literary fiction exploring domestic abuse interlaced with folk tales for fans of Carmen Maria Machado and Mira Candasamy. Arrivals is an exploration of the ripple effect of domestic abuse. The story follows a young woman fleeing her home country, trying to rebuild her life after she suffered violence at the hands of an alcoholic father. The novel bends form to accommodate the narrator's scattered mind and her attempt to assemble a version of herself through fragments and stitched memories, borrowed conversations, and minutiae that linger and haunt. Sounds good. Some foreplay. Then we have How to Read Now by Elaine Castillo, out by Viking in July. This is the writer of that book Hannah really likes, America Is Not the Heart.
I was gonna say Star Wars.
An exploration and polemic that redefines the power and potential for reading by a novelist whose prose is as good as it gets and who has a real voice, vernacular and fluid with a take-no-prisoners edge. How many times have we heard that reading builds empathy, that we can travel through books? How often have we heard about the importance of diversifying our bookshelves, or claim that books saved our lives? These familiar words, beautiful, aspirational, or sometimes even true. But award-winning novelist Elaine Castillo has more ambitious hopes for our reading culture. And in this collection of linked essays, she moves to rest, reading away from the cotton candy aspirations of uniting people in I can't read aloud. In empathetic harmony and reposition it as thornier, ultimately more rewarding work. I love that. I think a lot of the discourse around reading in light of all of the systemic, I guess, wounds of white supremacy showing lately have really felt gross to me and like the epitome of lack of a solution. So I love that this is coming from a person of color and trying to unpick what that actually means a little bit more. I can't wait to read that. Okay, now we have Bad Thoughts by Natalia, out in July by Vintage. This is a collection of short stories. An exhilarating and delightful deviant, ooh, I love that word, deviant debut story collection that, with comedic precision and compulsive irreverence, explores the most surreal and inadmissible fantasies of contemporary women. Okay, love. Natalia women, the perverts, nobodies, reality TV stars, poetic hopefuls, shameless party girls, and self-help addicts of Los Angeles and its environs are all wrestling with a shared stark reality, the modern world. To cope, they live in their baddest thoughts, the lush, strange landscapes of female make-believe. Oh, that blurb, okay. Sign me up, baby. Honestly, I might pick that for Sunday's book club. Maybe in August, once it's already out. Okay, and then we have Witches by Brenda Lozano, translated from the Spanish by Heather Cleary. It's out in August by Catapult. A story of the world's repeated failure to control feminine power and the sheer magic of language itself. An enthralling, passionate story about secrets both holy and profane. Blurbs by Catherine Lacey, who wrote Pew. That is a good blurb. Paloma is dead, but before she was murdered, before she was even Paloma, she was a traditional healer named Gaspar. Before she was murdered, she taught her cousin Feliciana the secrets of the ceremonies known as veladas and the language of the book that unlock their secrets. I feel like I've heard this compared to hurricane season, and it's supposed to be pretty dark, so okay, I'm down. Now we have Pathetic Literature, which is out in November, so definitely in the latter half of this year, out by Grove Press. This is a anthology which is composed by Eileen Miles, and it is a global anthology of pieces from lesser-known classics by luminaries like Franz Kafka, Samuel R. Delany, and Gwendolyn Brooks to up-and-coming writers that examine pathos and feeling, giving a well-timed rehab to the word pathetic. Literature is pathetic, so claims Eileen Miles in their bold, embracing introduction to pathetic literature, an exuberant collection of pieces ranging from poetry to theater to prose to something in between, all of which explore those so-called pathetic or sensitive feelings around which lives are built and revolutions are incited. Okay, so I don't really know what that means, but I'm excited. Carla Cornejo Villavicencio is in it, who wrote Undocumented Americans, which I loved. Those former people I blurbed. Chris Kraus is in it. I think this could be really interesting, and Eileen Miles is a great thinker, so excited to read what they put together in an anthology. Okay, we had to remove this post by Hannah Berbowitz, out by Harper. Hannah actually told me to read this one. It's out in May. It's already out. 5 days ago. Happy Pub Day. We had to remove this post. For readers of Leila Slimani's The Perfect Nanny or Ling Ma's Severance, a tight, propulsive, chilling novel by a rising international star about a group of young colleagues working as social media content monitors, reviewers of violent or illegal videos for an unnamed mega corporation who convince themselves they're in control until the violence strikes closer to home. That sounds incredibly familiar. Jalen, if you're watching this, isn't that already a short story in You Will Never Be Forgotten? That short story collection that you gave me? I swear to God, that's the same exact plot. Interesting. Dystopian, internet-y, near future. I'm there. The Rabbit Hush by Tess Gunty, out by Knopf in August. The Rabbit Hutch is a stunning debut novel about 4 teenagers recently aged out of state foster care system, living together in an apartment building in the post-industrial Midwest, exploring the quest for transcendence and the desire for love. Ooh, blurbed by blurbed by Raven Leilani. She says, Gunty writes with Gunty. That's a funny last name. Gunty writes with a keen, sensitive eye about all manner of intimacies, the kind we build with other people and the kind we cultivate around ourselves and our tenuous private aspirations. Okay. If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery, out in September by MCD. If I Survive You, ooh, blurbed by Ann Patchett, Marlon James. That's a weird combo of people. If I Survive You is a collection of connected short stories that reads like a novel, that reads like real life, that reads like fiction written at the highest level. This is where Jonathan Escoffery's career begins. There are no limits where he will go. A major debut, blazing with style and heart, that follows a Jamaican family striving for more in Miami and introduces a generational storyteller. We love a collection of short stories that are linked. Okay, Possessed by Joita Bydalowska, out in November, and the publisher's Rare Machines. Don't know them. Must be an indie press. Caught between a younger man that doesn't promise anything, her older former lover, and her senile mother, Josephine travels to a haunted quarantine island where she meets an enigmatic, beautiful man with a haunting story. Josephine is obsessed, or possessed, by unrequited love for a younger man who doesn't promise anything, but who gives her a taste of intimacy that puts her on the brink of losing her mind. Oscillating between her elusive lover and her older former partner, stuck in the hell that is working in a cubicle and obliged to tend to her destructive senile mother, Josephine is trapped. I think this was compared to, there were some comps. On Edelweiss too, you can see like the comparative titles, which I think is fun. Yeah, this was compared to The Pisces by Melissa Broder. So that is what sold it to me. Okay, Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, out in November by Riverhead. Set in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, a shattering novel about a young woman caught between allegiance to community and unsanctioned love. I know nothing about Ireland's politics, and I feel like I need to if I'm gonna keep reading Irish literature, so sounds good to have this be more forward in that regard. Amid daily reports of sectarian violence, Kushla is living a quiet life with her mother in a small town near Belfast. By day, she teaches at a parochial school, and at night she fills in her family's pub. It's there that she meets Michael Agnew, a barrister who's made a name for himself defending IRA members. Against her better judgment, Michael is not only Protestant, but older and married. Kusha lets herself get drawn in by him and his sophisticated world, and an affair ignites. Then the father of a student is savagely beaten, setting in motion a chain reaction that will threaten everything and everyone Kusha most wanted to protect. I mean, on for the review of that blurb. I'm not sure if that sounds like it's for me. But Aesthetica by Ali Rowbottom, out in November by Soho Press. In a debut novel as radiant as it is caustic, a former influencer confronts her past and takes inventory of the damages that underpin the surface glamour of social media. At 19, she was an Instagram celebrity. Now at 35, she works behind the cosmetic counter at the Black and White store, peddling anti-aging products to women seeking physical and spiritual transformation. She too is seeking rebirth. She's about to undergo the high-risk elective surgery aesthetica, a procedure that will reverse all her past plastic surgery procedures, returning her, she hopes, to a truer self, provided she survives the knife. Okay, weird. Kind of feels like it's talking about Instagram face and the aging out of physical alterations that are trends on social media. Okay. Dude, I kept talking and I didn't know it stopped recording. I'm gonna restart this whole one, okay? I Fear My Pain Interests You by Stephanie LaCava, out in September by Verso. A punky, raw novel of millennial disaffection, trauma, in 1960s cinema. Margot is a child of renowned musicians and the product of a particularly punky upbringing. Burnt out from the burden of expectation and the bad end of the worst relationship yet, she leaves New York and heads to the Pacific Northwest. She's seeking to escape both the eyes of the world and echoing voice of her last bad man. But a chance encounter with a dubious doctor in a graveyard and the discovery of a dozen old film reels opens the door to a study of both the peculiarities of her body and the absurdities of her famous family. Oh, that was my last one. Okay. So that's exciting. A whole new group of books that maybe you've never heard of to get excited about. I'm stoked by that possibility pile. I would love to know which of those you want me to read first. I think Bad Thoughts, that short story collection, sounded the most intriguing to me for some reason. That's the one that stayed with me, but if you have another suggestion, let me know. And if you added any of these to your TBR, let me know. And if there's anything I didn't mention that I should also be on the lookout for, let me know. Just let me know, baby. Cool. Love you guys. Bye.